In May 1965, there was the first thing that police would call a riot in Salt Lake City at Liberty Park. Started as a fist fight. There's thousands of people present and eventually over 100 police officers. This is something that Salt Lake City had just never seen. It had more to do with concerns that police were being heavy-handed with young men who were drinking a little bit on Memorial Day. From the coverage of these events at Liberty Park, and then the international coverage a few months later of the Watts riot in Los Angeles, rumors began to circulate that a race riot was going to happen right here in Salt Lake City. The rumor was that the NWACP, with its alleged connections to Black Muslims and communists, had arranged for a massive violent demonstration to be timed with the General Conference of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, very beginning in 1965. The story was that thousands of African Americans have booked all of the available airplanes. They booked all the hotels and motels. One African American man had purchased 40 explosive bombs missing from Hill Air Force Base. Martin Luther King was going to stay at the Hotel Utah during this demonstration. Most newspapers are actually suggesting maybe we will have a literal riot.
That was hurtful. Latter-day Saints who saw blacks differently because of the things they had been taught about race were therefore paranoid in many cases. But it was that fear that blacks were going to come into the valley, pillage the temple, rape the women. State government was involved, city government was involved, the police force was alerted, National Guard alerted. It was a fear that was so real. I used to be a shooter, and I was at this one gun shop in town, and there were two men who were talking loudly enough for me to hear. And one of them said to the other, "Well, I have a temple recommend from my stake president, and I'll be in the east towers of the Salt Lake Temple." And he said, "I'll be able to pick a nigger off down Main Street for so many blocks." And then they turned to look at me to make sure I had heard. And of course, none of it ever happened.
Absolutely nothing happens at General Conference. The NWACP did their own investigation using different government agencies to figure out where the rumors came from. And in their public statement, they announced that the rumors seemed to come from far-right organizations, and that the police force, the National Guard, and local politicians, such as the Salt Lake City mayor, had participated and, whether they realized it or not, spread this information throughout the community. Later historians have actually found the evidence they need to back this up, beginning with a wonderful Utah historian named D. Michael Quinn. He found a letter from Reed Benson. Reed Benson was the son of Ezra Taft Benson, but he was also the head of the Utah chapter of the John Birch Society, the major anti-communist group. Reed Benson's letter states that members of the John Birch Society in Utah should use some of the tactics of communist Russia, that they should use a disinformation campaign. This rumor began with the John Birch Society, who filtered it out into this population. And from there, we can see how rumor and legend works. But this isn't just an artifact of the past. These rumors would be recycled every year. Major ones in 1967, 1968, and 1970.
Yeah, we still hear that the civil rights movement was a part of the communist conspiracy to contend the civil rights movement, that what they were doing was not what it appeared to be, but what someone else wanted to say it was to demean those lives that had been lost and all of the thousands of people who were struggling for equality, for fairness in this nation. We like to point at the southern states and say that they had a problem. No, here in Utah, we had a problem.